Hey guys, this is Sven from EpicByteStudios. Since my last video on this topic went very well and also was uploaded roughly 9 months ago, I decided to make another tutorial on this topic. As you also can see, my style has changed quite a bit over the last few months, and that shows that you can easily improve by just practicing drawing on a regular basis. Also, if you are interested on one we have been working on over the last few months, you might as well check out our channel to find all kinds of devlogs and tutorials. The pictures I included here are just a small chunk of content we have produced for our game. The drawing software in this video is called Asesprite and costs quite a bit of money. But I would recommend this tool because it is really easy to learn and has all sorts of features. To create a new project, I had to File, New, and set the width and the height 64 by 64, and I leave the rest of the settings as it is. After the new file is created, I usually create a background and a foreground layer. You can create a second layer by pressing Shift and N at the same time or right-clicking the existing layer and pressing New Layer. Then you can press Ctrl and move the layer around with your mouse. When that is done, I rename the layers with pressing Shift and P at the same time to know which layer I am currently working on. So that's pretty much it with the introduction of this video, so let's get right into the tutorial. You might have noticed that I took a kind of different approach this time compared to my older tutorial. If you haven't watched that one, I will leave a link in the video description for you. Last video I started with drawing the head, but this time I began with the torso of this character. I wanted to draw a chubby but also muscular warrior character. I knew that my character needed some armor on him, so I started with drawing a metal protection on his belly. At this point there's no need for me to draw a lot of detail, because I'm just testing around and it can happen that I change some stuff around, so it just worked for nothing. Then I surrounded the metal plate with some fabric and clothing to also help me sketch out the form of the torso and also have a transition to the other body parts. After drawing the basic form of the torso, I started adding the shoulders by drawing fabric over them. Then I began to sketch out the arms, but as you can see they were a little bit too thin for what I wanted to go for. So I finished the shape of the head and redrew the arms to bigger and stronger arms. When drawing any character, you should have in mind on what parts of the character you want the viewer to focus and what parts are less important for the character. As I said, in my case I wanted to draw big arms and a chubby figure. Also, here's a small spoiler, but I made this to show you how I usually work on characters. There are basically 3 stages of drawing pretty much anything, at least that's how I like to do it. Stage 1 will be drawing basic shapes with no detail, just the shape. Stage 2 will be adding small necessary details like eyes and mouth, and also if you have more than one shading color, I would use the darkest and the brightest and then work my way to the basic color. In stage 3 I add the final detail and the shadow. That out of the way, let's continue on my character. Since I didn't have too much space for shading on the arms, I had quite a hard time figuring out how the shadows would look the best. But I am happy how the final version of the arms turned out. By the way, if you draw something which you are not too sure about, for example shader or the form or the object by itself, it helps to use reference. Also, I would really try to fix parts that bother you, because that will also contribute to a better overall result. I personally prefer not to use reference anymore, because drawing out of my head really helped me improve my creativity and overall workflow. But when you are just starting out as a beginner, it's definitely a good approach to look for reference in any form. Since I already drew the basic form of the head, I added details like the 2 eyes and the mouth. Later on you will see that I changed the mouth and the eyes quite a lot, because I had a certain expression I want to go for in mind. On such a low scale, I would highly recommend to leave the nose and the ears away, because they may appear really big compared to the rest of the face. After leaving the face behind, I started sketching out the legs for this character. As a fun fact, the legs didn't turn out the way I wanted them to be, but instead of erasing them and drawing new ones, the idea of a mount came into my mind, which I didn't even plan on drawing at the beginning. That shows that you don't have to complete art in mind, because you also will get many ideas while drawing on that character. At this point, the character is almost done, but what's missing is the mount. So for this, I thought about where I can use that character in our game, and since it's a sandy environment, I decided to go with the camel. The next part may vary for you, but since our game, which by the way the character is drawn for, operates with a top-down perspective, I had to keep the perspective of the mount in mind. That means, although you can see the camel from the front, you also have to see parts of his back and his hind leg. Now, it is just the process of drawing the basic shape of the camel, with the help of the first stage, which I explained earlier, and then adding details, for example shadows and eyes. After that is done, I added the rider on top of the mount, to almost finish this character's design. For the last part I thought about how the character would even attack, and since there was no weapon at all on this character, I wanted to add one. So I added a spear, which this warrior can use to deal you a good amount of damage later on. And that's pretty much a guide on how I draw Pixelart characters. I hope you found this guide useful, and if you have any questions regarding Pixelart or this software, feel free to ask them in the comments. If you want, you can subscribe to our channel for future tutorials and game dev related stuff. We wish you all a happy Christmas time and an amazing start into the new year. Thanks for watching, see you in the next tutorial.